Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to welcome you to today's session here at Bentley, focused on advancing your career with our graduate programs. I am Emma Emmer, Executive Director of Strategic Programs here, and I am thrilled to be joined here by a handful of amazing panelists who are going to speak to this incredible topic. Just to do a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into introducing them and having a great conversation. I want to just clarify for folks. I know you all are in webinar mode, so you're not able to speak or be seen on the screen. That is super atypical of here at Bentley. We love interaction and engagement, but in order to allow for great sound, we unfortunately have you in webinar mode. However, we still want you to engage with us. So please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen if you have anything you want to share with us. That can be a question, that can be a thought. Please, as you have them, share your thinking, and we will make sure to either answer your questions or your ideas during the conversation that we're having or towards the end of our session. We also will spend most of our time today talking to the folks who are here about advancing your career with Bentley's resources. But we also will end with some admissions information. So if you do have questions about applying and what it means to join us here at Bentley, we have some folks on the line that can help answer those types of questions. So without further ado, I would love for our panelists to introduce themselves. Rucha, do you mind getting us started by sharing who you are, what you studied here at Bentley, and what you're up to now?
Of course, thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I am Rucha Deshpande. I am originally from India. I moved here for my master's in 2022 of Jan, for my master's in financial analytics here at Bentley. And currently, I am working at BlackRock as a financial data analyst. I've been here for the past year, and it's been pretty great, having the whole journey starting from Bentley to where I am right now. And I feel like Bentley has been a great supporting wheel in this whole journey, in this whole professional journey. And thank you so much for having me here.
We're thrilled to have you, Rucha, and I'm excited to dig into that.
Yep.
Hogan, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and I am going to give a sorry to everyone on the line that Hogan's camera is misbehaving today, but his insights will be just as good whether we can see him or not. So, Hogan, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry everyone for that, but I'm glad you can at least hear me. That's what matters here. So, hi everyone, my name is Hogan Milheim. I was also a master's in financial analytics student at Bentley. Currently now at Travelers Insurance. So I am in their FALDP, which is their Finance and Accounting Leadership Development Program. I am in the third year of that program, which is the final year currently in BI Shared, which is business insurance. Basically, I get to see how all of business insurance results ultimately roll up, and then also have a lot of insight into like the earnings prep process. So helping support that each and every quarter. And yeah, Bentley was instrumental for me to get here to Travelers and kind of where I am today.
Wonderful. And then Faith, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Maybe not what you're studying here at Bentley. I'm gonna make an
No,
assumption
but
that that's
I'm a
not part of it.
lifelong learner. I would love to go back to Bentley. Hi, I'm Faith Beatty. I'm the Director of Graduate and Alumni Career Development, and welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I have been at Bentley for almost 3 years, and what really attracted me to Bentley was honestly the nimbleness and the strategic focus, and it is proven to be true, and it's a great opportunity. I have a team of coaches who support the students and resources. And just to note, we also have alumni career resources for life. So Usha and Hogan, if you ever need assistance, we're here for you.
That's right. And one of those amazing coaches who does just about everything here on campus is the wonderful Audra. Audra, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yay, what a nice introduction, Emma. Thank you so much. And again, good morning and good evening to all of you joining us today. My name is Audra Bonney. And as Faith said, that I am part of her team as a Senior Associate Director and International Student Specialist. I've had the pleasure of working with both Rucha and Hogan in the past. That really is my reason to be at Bentley. I always like to encourage and share that I've been at Bentley. I have a long history with Bentley. So I've been here for double-digit years. I'll leave it at that. I'm also a Bentley parent. So my daughter graduated from Bentley with her economics degree in May of 2024. And I'm also an alum. So my journey started at Bentley. And that was many years ago. And so should you choose to attend Bentley, has been a wonderful place, and I think it'll be an amazing journey for you as well. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thanks, Audra. All right, so let's dig into both Rucha and Hogan have had incredible starts to their career based on their time here at Bentley. And I want to think about kind of how they got to where they are from a number of different angles. We have both Faith and Audra here to talk about our grad career development services, and I want to spend a lot of time there. But before we dig into that, I do want to spend a moment talking about how the classroom sets up our students for the types of roles that they're in. So both Hogan and Rucha, I would love to start from your perspective with a story of something you did in one of your financial analytics classes or one of your classes outside of that major that you feel were directly applicable to the role you've taken on or that supported you in your job kind of interview process in a way that you feel has set you apart from your peers or just set you up really well for success. Hogan, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. I can start with that. So I think a couple of the classes and some of the work that I've done, they're like the one kind of investment focused class and then one of the more financial modeling focused classes has really kind of helped me as I've kind of gone through my time and in the Travelers FALDP. Although those classes are a little bit more focused on kind of like investment kind of modeling, which I don't particularly do in my role, as it's a little bit more kind of corporate finance. A lot of the skills that I've been able to take from what I did in those classes and have applied them to some of my own modeling that I do in my current role right now. So, like for example, one thing that I'm working on right now is this MYP model. When you're in corporate finance, it's you do a lot of multi-year planning. So planning out where you're going to see a lot of the numbers, 5 years down the line. So right now I'm completely rebuilding this model. It was a mess in the past, so trying to work on rebuilding that. And I can see in myself as I'm going through this process that a lot of those skills and things that I thought about in the investment class or in the financial modeling class, specifically, with Excel, I've been able to apply that kind of skill set into some of this work in this role that I'm in right now.
That's awesome to hear. Rucha, I'm curious from your perspective, any similar types of experiences that have benefited you?
Yeah, very similar to Hogan. I think the investments class and the financial modeling class has really helped me a long way a year. But like right after I graduated, I had joined Aptiv as a in their FLDP program, and right there, I was into like planning and of like building models for different plans. And I think I took a lot away from the financial modeling classes because the Excel models that Professor Stephen had shown us, I mean, I directly used it, and a lot of people, like a lot of colleagues, were really impressed by the models I built because they were the latest ones, and it was not used a lot during that time in the company. And I was actually able to build up a model where I could show them the attrition rates for different for the plans, and actually build out and cut down all the costs, and had a good breakdown of all the things. And I think the financial modeling class definitely helped me a lot. Coming to my current role, I think I really underestimated the classes that I took in Bentley because the Python and the R classes that I took there, I think the analytics focused classes are helping me a long way. Even today, like it's been a year, but because I have those skill sets, it's setting me apart from my peers who are very finance focused and do not have exposure to the analytics part of things. So because I kind of have a flavor of the analytics part of things, I think it's really setting me apart. And it was a tough class to crack for sure, especially the Python one. I was struggling, but I think it is all worth it when I'm able to apply it today. So yeah, Bentley has really helped me in that aspect.
Yeah, Rucha, I think that's a really interesting point
Yep.
that I actually think across all of our programs, it's interesting that both Hogan and Rucha studied financial analytics here. That was not by design. Really they were selected because of their great care for Bentley and their amazing career trajectories. But I think what they're talking about is very applicable across our entire suite of master's programs. And what I mean by that is Bentley has an undercurrent of analytics, emerging technologies focused on kind of what is happening at the forefront of business throughout everything that we're doing. And so, Rucha, your story both about, hey, I brought in some financial models people weren't looking at that time is one I've heard many times. And also the story about you having that ability to do analytics as well as, and I'm curious if you would respond, how you and Hogan feel about this, not only the analytics, but the ability to communicate the what you've learned is something that I've heard many times sets Bentley students apart once they hit whatever role they choose to take on. I'm curious, either Rucha or Hogan, if you have any thoughts on that idea of kind of the work plus communications as a piece that makes you successful in your career.
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And to Rich's point, like the Python and the SQL classes for me, like has really just helped with my own like logical reasoning as I work through different tasks
Mm.
at work. And I think it's also allowed me, if I'm talking through some of these maybe complex things that I'm working on with, maybe my manager or my manager's manager, being able to kind of walk through those details in a kind of a concise way that they can kind of understand that picture. And I think those classes have definitely helped me there quite a bit.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I also wanted to add that in terms of communication, I think because I also join a lot of these organizations, I was able to actually put myself out there and actually talk and communicate better. I think that has also helped me shape a lot in terms of getting things together, building ideas, and then presenting it in front of a group. And it doesn't always have to be very education focused, because like having just like I was part of this International Graduate Student Association, which was it's not a study focused group, right? It's just people coming together, but that also helps you build relations. And I think building relations and networking is so important even in your career when you start working. So that has actually helped me shape my personality along with all the classes I've taken. So I think it's like an overall balance of both studies plus all the networking that you do at university.
I think that's right on. And I swear I didn't pay Rucha to say that because it's the perfect segue. So I think that both Hogan and Rucha are talking about examples, and these are just a few of many examples I think they could share about how in the classroom, outside the classroom, benefited them in their career search and then ultimate where they landed. Faith, I'd love to hear from you. If we take Rucha and Hogan as kind of an example of students here, what we see is they have these great opportunities to build skill sets. I'd love to hear your philosophy on how the Grad Career Development Office supports students then who are building these skills in translating that into their job search. So I saw you nodding wildly, as I know
Yes.
you would, when Richard was talking about networking. But I'd
Yes.
love to hear, what is it that we're creating for students in your office that helps them leverage exactly the experiences that Hogan and Rucha are talking about?
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Networking is a theme. It's an effective, successful strategy for crafting. We really support crafting your story. We have assessments here, whether it's career leader or strengths, and we really try to work with students so that they can craft their story and being able to identify how to express themselves in all sorts of settings are the experiences that will ultimately allow them to create a larger network of trusted professionals, allow them to excel in the workplace because networking does not end when you secure a job, as Rusha was just saying. I think it's just, it positions you for success throughout your life. And we absolutely support that. We're here at Bentley, we're small enough that we can be nimble and we can be personalized. And that's one of the great aspects of the Bentley size. And so Audra's a phenomenal coach. We have a tight team of coaches who you could meet with any of them. And that's somewhat unique. And because we want you to find the right coach for you. And also, every coach brings a slightly different skill set, and we want you to have access to all that we have available. Richard and Hogan, when you were here, we had not introduced this, but we have just introduced professional development partners here in the coaching staff. So we have individuals who are currently in industry who are accessible to coach our students. And again, that's a really good example of the nimbleness of a Bentley, because we really want to align with what's happening in the marketplace. And so that's one method that we use to do that. But in general, I think the theme of networking is huge. I'm sure both of you had the experience of going to career fairs here, going to our career conversations, networking events where you meet with alumni. We also do an alumni in residence. We've expanded that to be a professionals and alumni in residence, and we've extended that to a couple of weeks throughout the year now. Those are one-on-one opportunities to meet with alumni. And I love the quote from one that happened last spring. These are networking, not hiring events, but there was a CIO who was one of the alumni. At the end of it, he came up to me and goes, I got to go back and figure out how to hire this person. And it was perfect. It was great. That's what you want to hear. It's just an opportunity to really show who you are and capitalize on that. And also we have really worked through the whole cycle of what you need. Interviewing, we do mock interviewing events here. We're just planning them for the spring right now. And we also do compensation and negotiation. Oh, there you go. So you're just sharing exactly what our model is. And we just had one of our career coaches created a really effective workshop just the other day on compensation, because I'm sure Rucha and Hogan both know it is not just about the dollars. It is about so many other aspects of the organization and your relationship with it. Anyways, does that help? Or
It absolutely does, Faith. And I would love, Audra, for you to talk from your perspective. And then Rucha and Hogan, I'm going to ask you about from your perspective. Audra knows both Rucha and Hogan because she was in support of their career search here at Bentley. Audra, I would love to start by hearing from your perspective. What does one-on-one career coaching look like at the graduate level? And how do you support students as they're working to figure out where they want to land?
That is such a great question. And I think it really first starts with getting to know each and every student who comes from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different experience levels, different backgrounds. So in the beginning, it's really about building trust, spending time, getting to know each other. And when Hogan and Rucha were here, there were a number of ways that we did that that are different. So to Faith's point, and since Faith has been here for these last almost 3 years, we have pivoted to different methods that work even better for the current student population that we do have here. But again, first and foremost, it's getting to know the student and understanding where they are and meeting them where they are. You had actually brought up the slide recently that really showcases a new method and a new approach, which we call our Mapping Your Career Journey Guide. And so this was something that wasn't here. It was kind of here, but this is a little bit more of a formal, if you will, journey map that new students can see in terms of how we approach the discussions. And so recently I just had 2 discussions before this meeting, and we definitely always focus on career choice to start. And again, the 5 pillars are right here. Faith actually spent a lot of time on some of these, so I'm just going to move through pretty quickly to say that it is important to have an understanding of who you are first, what you can offer, what you love to do, and potentially where you want to do it in order to move through the journey most effectively and seamlessly. Once you know, then you can build your story much more effectively and easily. Again, building your resume. We work on engaging in developing LinkedIn profiles and cover letters and what the story is going to be as you're engaging and networking with people. The networking and searching opportunity pillar comes next, and we actually do employ a 2-hour job search methodology, which not only tells you to network. I know oftentimes we say, why don't you just network? But a lot of times students are trying to figure out, well, how do I do it? And this 2-hour job search process provides the instructions to do that, again, seamlessly, quickly, efficiently, especially given the time constraints on a graduate student's schedule. And then obviously the interview process, Faith spoke a lot about that, and negotiations. Oftentimes when you're meeting with a student, they might be in different phases, but the resources that we provide when it comes to one-on-one coaching surround these 5 different areas.
That's amazing. I'm curious, Rucha, I'll start with you. In your career search while you were here at Bentley, I'm curious if there were any career development kind of interventions or resources that proved to be most helpful to you.
Of course, yeah. I can go ahead. I think the best part about Bentley's career development resources was that you could actually schedule like a one-on-one call with any of the coaches, and it was available anytime that you wanted, right? So if suppose I have like a job interview scheduled for the end of the week, I could always meet with anyone at any point of time. It was so accessible that it was super helpful because you need that kind of support before you're like actually giving the interview that you really want to aim for, right? But that's just the interview part of things. I think when I just started out, I was also super confused about where do I want my career to go, because you always hear about so many different things. Finance, especially in finance, like there are so many roles, so many different paths that you could choose. People also go into accounting even when they've done finance, and it's like a widespread of things, especially because in Bentley you also have these courses where you are also having a few accounting courses along with finance. So you could actually go in wherever you like. So it's basically based on what you like. So what I loved about Bentley's professional career development resources was that I could talk to, I mean, I've spoken to Audra multiple times during that journey where, I first started out with how do I want to take my career, or what exactly should I aim at, because you don't want to like keep applying to roles in different paths and then you don't know where you want to end up with. So I think having those one-on-ones really helped me narrow things down, understand what I am looking for, what would be the best fit. And it's just not about salary, but it's also about having the right company fit, right? The culture fit that you want to be with, or the type of people that you're interacting with. So that was super helpful. Secondly, I think Bentley had a lot of these networking events where people came from the industry, and we got to spend time. And like you said, Emma, that because the number of people are limited in Bentley, you get like a one-on-one experience with the people. It's not like, you won't have the opportunity to go and talk to that person. So I think that was super helpful because I got to network with a lot of people. In fact, my first job at Aptiv was through the career fair because we had Bentley alumni who were at the career fair, and I spoke to them, and that's how I connected and I got the job. So I think Bentley has been really pivotal in my entire journey, and the one-on-ones really helped me understand. There were a lot of I remember there were these questionnaires that we had to fill up, to understand, what kind of personality you are, and try to understand your strengths, your weaknesses. And at that point, you might think that, I don't know if this is going to help, but it actually helps you understand the kind of person you are. And it actually helps you even in your interviews, because you kind of have a clear path of what do you want in your life and in your professional career. So I think it was super helpful for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hogan, I'm curious for you. I recall in kind of talking with you earlier that you also Strengths Finder, which is one of the
Mm.
assessments that Rucha is speaking to, was served to be helpful to you. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. I'm also curious, I think Rucha was pointing to this idea of the Bentley network being beneficial, whether that's Bentley's network of employers or Bentley's alumni network supporting students. I'm curious if you've had any overlap in either of those places that was helpful to you.
Yeah, so I'll start with the Strengths Finder. So I was going to mention being in Audra's CDI class. That was something that was definitely very helpful for me. I think, admittedly, when I think about myself and probably a development opportunity for myself, I don't always do the best with kind of self-reflection on kind of like what are my strengths and things like that. So going through this process in this class really kind of opened my eyes to that in many ways. And as I was reading through that report, I'm like, oh wow, like this really is like me, like this really is the strengths that I have. So, it allowed me to kind of think about, my career and where I could apply these different strengths that I have. And ultimately, I think through this process and through that class, it kind of got me to the point where like it opened my eyes to those FLDP, FALDP type programs where you get to see various different roles over, 2, 3 years, allows me to kind of flex those strengths in a number of different roles so I can really kind of understand what I like and maybe more importantly, what I don't like. So then ultimately graduating out of the program, I go into a role that I really love. So the Strength Finders definitely for me was very, important to help me kind of understand kind of where I wanted to go in my career post Bentley. And thinking about even networking, I'm just thinking about now kind of like at Travelers, like my manager's manager went to Bentley. There's a few other folks in my program right now that went to Bentley. My very first manager, my first rotation went to Bentley. So there's a lot of kind of connections here just at Travelers that I've been able to kind of to leverage there, which I think is just an awesome point to make that Bentley has alumni all over the place and in these large companies that can kind of really help you in your future as you navigate your career.
I think that's a hugely important point. And Faith, I'd love for you. So Faith has worked in this kind of space of supporting folks in their career development at a number of different places. And I'm curious, Faith, what would you say is interesting or different about the Bentley alumni base? Because I've certainly heard lots of things about Bentley
Yeah,
alums and their how
yeah.
they engage with current students, but I'm curious from your perspective, what's different and how do we make sure we're bring them into our students' journeys because of how they're willing to step up.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I loved that comment, and I appreciate both of your journeys and our touch points, our department's touch points with you. I have to say, I've been very uh, really pleased and really excited by the Bentley alumni. I was at a couple other institutions. I can give you just some great examples. We were doing a career event this fall with alumni. I contacted an alumni at like 7 o'clock at night. 7 a.m. there was a response. 6 a.m. was a response. I'm coming. I got to figure out my childcare. 7 a.m. I've got the childcare. I'm coming. I mean, it's just, I love him. So thank you. And then another one just said to me, Of course I would say yes. Why wouldn't I say yes? I love meeting with your students, so it's just a really positive experience. I mean, Audra is like, the epitome of this because she just gets so jazzed up at all of these events because she's worked with, I haven't been here as long, but she's worked with so many of them, and it's just like a homecoming. And Bentley as a whole, the university does a really good job of supporting that. So it's not GCD alone. It's the alumni conference. It's the fall alumni weekend. It's our analytics conference in the spring. I mean, there's so many opportunities. We have such great speakers. We have such great fireside chats. There's so many opportunities for alumni to want to be back on campus. We just had a career networking night for alumni through GCD. It's just there's a lot of opportunities to stay connected, and which I think is phenomenal. And I just want to just say one thing. I appreciated both of what you were saying. And Hogan, I just had a student who was trying to figure out between a few job offers, and the coaches said, go back to your assessment, go back to your strengths, go back to what's a priority for you, and use that to help you to make your decision. And they have since come back and said, that was what I needed. That's
Wow.
how I was able to make my decision. So that was like a really good, reaffirmation of the use of a self-awareness, a self-assessment. And Ruja, I just want to say, when you said student organizations that you're involved in, huge. It's a huge aspect of the Bentley experience. It's a huge aspect of developing relationships with your peers and professional and personal skills, because it is all about the connectivity. So I just had to slip that in there.
I'm so glad you did, Faith, and I think that's
Yeah.
exactly right. I know we have way too much to talk about in this short time because so much of the Bentley experience benefits students, both as humans, and this comes up often in just creating relationship, but also in their career search. And it's so true that right now we're focused on kind of grad career development resources, but boy, like being a part of all the organizations, being a part of your classroom, being a part of whatever it is that you're doing here is a huge piece in driving your decision making. I want to ask one more question of Audra before we quickly talk about some admission stuff, and then Rucha and Hogan, I want to come back to you. Audra, I know there's a lot of folks on the line here who are international students, and I know this is something Rucha navigated when she was here. And I'm curious, since you are an international student specialist, I'd love for you to talk about some of the resources we have specifically for international students as they navigate their job search here and globally.
Yes, and that is such a good, timely question as well. Acknowledging the fact that the market is something that is cyclical, it goes up and down. And now is a especially challenging time for international students who may be looking for opportunities in the United States. And so, from a resources perspective, I do want to say that, again, here at Bentley, we are small enough to be quite a very welcoming and warm community. And so all students should feel comfortable coming to us, I hope, when they have concerns and they need support. So international students in specific, from a coaching perspective, I do think that we do our best to acknowledge and to provide the support and to provide the new ideas. I think that's what we do really well at Bentley Graduate Career Development, is that we're never going to be down and out. We're always going to be looking for something new and reasonable and effective for students to be able to utilize going forward. So from a coaching perspective, I did want to say that we do gear our coaching towards the students that we're working with, in this case, international students. One of the things that I talk to international students about right now is really reframing what does success actually mean. It doesn't necessarily only have to mean a job in the United States, but what are the other options that are available? Could they be potentially looking globally? Should they be considering options, well, whether it be at home or in a third country? So again, helping them also to discuss how they should be describing themselves and expressing themselves to employers, which is something that I think oftentimes might be a challenge for them. what they can say, and what's appropriate and what's effective. Some of the other things that we do offer, which I'm really proud of, is over the years, we've been one of the universities that has offered a platform and an investment in a platform called InnerStride. And InnerStride is specifically for international students, that offers networking and job boards and filters that are specifically geared towards this population. So they have a filter that's called the ones that are sponsoring, where sponsorship is available. They have also companies, and they acknowledge companies that have sponsored within the last year. They have a great news feed of up-to-date information, which is really necessary right now. Webinars, alternatives to finding opportunities just in the United States. Great speakers, immigration attorneys, places where they can figure out the history of organizations who have sponsored in the past. So not every university has this, and I'm really proud that Bentley has invested for many years in this resource for students. And then again, I wanted to lastly just talk about some of the programming that we do. We have in the past, and I know Rucha, we had worked together when she was the president of the GFA. She was also a member of the newly formed, I think at the time, it was maybe a very young organization called the International Graduate Student Association. So we were doing things together. I'm thinking about one that we had a lot of fun at. We took pictures at, that was like the Global Fest. It was a food fest. But at the same time, we do things specifically from a grad career development perspective, like bringing in speakers like Dan Beaudry, who wrote the book Power Ties, the International Student's Guide to Finding a Job in the United States. And because we've been talking about the Career Conversations networking event, which is our signature event, I will say that this year we had about 75 students attend. We had 26 alumni and professionals, and over half of them were international students in the past. They were international alumni. So wherever we go, whatever we do, we're always thinking about our international students and trying to incorporate folks that will be helpful for them to engage with. So I'll leave with that.
Can I add
Yes,
on to
please.
that?
Of course you can.
One of the things that we've really leaned into this year, I mean, we all understand that this is not an easy environment for our international student population. And at our recent Career Conversations event last month, or beginning of this month, or can't remember what month it was in, still in November.
November
Anyways,
5th, yes.
we particularly, it's been a long month, we particularly are focused on having some of our international alumni who had gone through downturns, who were on the other side of that downturn, who could really share the story and show how they were thriving and how the perseverance and grit and, you know, all of the skills that you need to, you know, personal attributes you need to get through a difficult time did pay off for them. And so I just think that was really important, because we can't just look at the career side for the international students. We also have to make sure for all of our students, make sure that mentally, emotionally, that they feel supported and confident as they go forward. So I just wanted, and Audra is phenomenal at that.
She absolutely is. And thanks for making sure we talked about that. Gordon, I would love to invite you to join us to talk a little bit about the admissions process. I'm going to beg you to talk as quickly as you possibly can, because I want to make sure we still hear more from Rucha and Hogan before the end of our time. But I would love folks on the line to understand, if you want to have the kind of support and career guidance that Rucha and Hogan had here at Bentley, how to become a member of our community.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks, Emma. Really appreciate it. She knows me too well. She knows I like to talk, so I will keep this brief. The application requirements are pretty straightforward. If you go onto our website, you'll be able to click on Apply Now. We're going to take a look for your resume and your LinkedIn profile, so it's really important that you include both of those. We're going to take a look at one required recommendation letter. You can submit up to two. They should either be professional or academic, just depending on where you are in your career. You are going to submit one essay. The essay is between 300 and 500 words. There is also an additional optional personal statement that you can submit along with your application. Same thing, between 300 and 500 words. We also are currently GMAT GRE optional, which I know is really exciting for a lot of folks who don't feel like the test might be something they want to submit. If you did take it or would like to take it and submit it, you're absolutely more than welcome to, but it is an option. For our international students, an English language test is required if you did take your education in a foreign language that's not in English. We do currently accept the Duolingo, the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Pearson. So there's 4 tests there that you can take. And then we also do require your transcripts. For domestic students, we will take unofficial. If you are an international student or attended university outside the United States, we will need to see an evaluated transcripts, not necessarily from into English, but from the education system of where you took that into the education system here in the United States. And for our some of our full-time MBA programs, there is an interview as well. So we'll go on to talk a little bit about cost. One of the things we do definitely offer Merit Aid Scholarship. Merit Aid Scholarship is just based on the overall quality of your application. So everything I just talked about. We also do offer opportunities for tuition, for tuition and graduate assistantships. Our graduate assistantships is an opportunity for you to work in one of our centers, one of our research centers, one of our labs, work with one of our professors or in one of our departments. It is an hourly paid position. It's 20 hours a week. And that is something that you can apply, request for in your application. Please do note, we only award these for the fall term as they're coming in. We also do offer tuition assistance, or excuse me, we don't offer tuition assistance unless you work here, but we do, a lot of students do also pay for tuition assistance through their organization. So if you are a full-time student and your company does offer tuition assistance, that is definitely something that you can utilize as well. I just request that you reach out to your HR department or your benefits manager because it is different for each organization, but that's typically the way that students pay for their education here. The next thing I'll talk about is the application process. We are still taking applications for our spring term, which begins around January 20th. We're taking applications from our domestic students up until December 11th. For our international students and our domestic students who are interested in the fall, we're currently coming up on our round 2, which is coming up on December 14th. And then the regular decisions are February 1st. For international students, the final deadline for classes beginning again at the end of August for our fall 2026 term, the deadline is June 1st. And for our domestic and CEVIS transfers, the absolute deadline is August 1st of 2026. However, again, try to submit your application earlier. The earlier you submit, the more opportunity you may have at getting some of that merit aid. All right, Emma, that's the quickest I think I've ever
Oh my
done it.
gosh,
Hopefully that was
Gordon,
fast enough for you.
I don't even think you breathed during that. Well, but if anyone has any questions about the application process, please put them in the chat. We are more than happy to answer them. But as Gordon just put in the chat for you guys, that is the email address of our admissions office. I really urge you, and I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to promise you I'm going to say it again. I urge you to talk to us as an individual and get in touch via that email address or by scheduling a consultation, which I'll give you access to. The reason I bring this up, both Faith and Audra talked a lot about Bentley's size and how that benefits you by allowing us to get to know you as an individual once you're here. That is true during the application process too. We know you all have your own stories. We know you all have your own desired outcomes, and we want to support you towards those. So please, I know Gordon just did the lightning round on how to apply. If you have questions within that are specific to you, be in touch. We would love, love, love to support you.
And I promise we won't go through it that fast when we do the one-on-one.
Nope.
We'll definitely take our time.
We'll put it on like 0.5
Yeah.
speed. Yep, absolutely. Well, okay, so Hogan, I want to end with you as I kind of see if folks have some questions in the Q&A. I want you to think often, right? A session like this, there's so much information and it's hard for everyone to remember everything. Can you think of one experience here at Bentley, inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in conjunction with grad career development, that was kind of in your mind the standout moment, the most meaningful moment as you think about how you used your time at Bentley to get to where you are at Travelers? And do you mind sharing with us what you would identify there?
Yeah, sure. I think it kind of goes back to really what I said earlier about the strengths finders and Audra's CEI class. I think ultimately that really kind of accelerated, where I wanted to go with my career and how I thought about how I could add value to an organization. I think it's really almost for me, it's as simple as that. It's kind of what I mentioned earlier. That Strength Finders assessment really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
That's wonderful to hear. And Rucha, I'd love for you to answer the same question. What stands out as having been most meaningful for you?
I think personally it's been the connections and the networks that I made during my time here, the friends that I made here. I think it goes a long way because we're still in touch and we still meet, and then it's along with all the curriculum that you are studying and the classes that you all went together. I think building those connections, it goes a long way. And it's not just for your professional career development, right? It also has a very personal touch to it. It's not everything has to be a job focused, or you build these networks only to get a job. That's not how it works. So I think the most memorable thing for me is just the connections that I build. And if the byproduct of it is also getting a job, that just works out for everyone. But
Richard, that's such a beautiful point, and I could not agree more. Our focus in this session is to talk about career development. However, I will say, and I think this seeped through a lot of the conversation, Bentley is a highly authentic place where individuals are treated as individuals and individual humans. And that is true whether we're talking about your career development, whether we're talking about you in your curriculum, or whether we're talking about you as a human. Both Hogan and Rucha were suggested for this session by both Audra and one of our faculty members, Steve Wasserman. And the reason for that, and Steve is like a perfect embodiment of seeing people as full humans. Um, the reason is they suggested both of them because they cared so much about both of them, and both of them have invested so much back here at Bentley. And I think that is they are kind of superstars in that, but I do think that's typical of our community. Rucha spoke earlier about selecting your employer community based on your values. I think Bentley's values, when you think about, picking your school community, your learning community, our values are ones of real personalization, real humanness, alongside a really rigorous business education. And those two things don't always go together. Bentley believes in good business. The people who want to come here want to be full humans that bring their humanness to do good in the world. And I think that's a really powerful thing. With that, I am going to share one last thing with you all, and that's how to stay in touch. As I said, I'm going to say this 800 times. We want to know you as an individual too. So if you use that second QR code from the left to set up a consultation, that will bring you to a place where you can pick a time, much like Rucha was saying, you kind of can get any time you're interested in. Similar on the admission side. So we want you to pick a time that it works for you to connect with a current student or connect with one of our admissions professionals like Gordon to talk to us about who you are, what your story is, and how we can support you in thinking about Bentley. On the right, you have 3 links to ways to learn more about our community. I really urge all of you on the line, particularly to engage with us on YouTube. The reason for that is this session is very specialized. As we talked about, it's really focused on your career journey. We have videos of sample classes on YouTube. We have straightforward information sessions. I saw a great question in the Q&A about the financial analytics curriculum specifically. That is really well answered by some of those sessions on YouTube or by talking to us individually about the curriculum. And so I urge you, spend some time, watch a sample class, learn more about our programs there. Instagram and LinkedIn are great ways to feel our community. You often can see profiles of current students or days in the life or things like that. And we really urge you to do that. Hogan, Rucha, I cannot thank you enough for joining us to talk about your experiences. You both are doing incredible work post your time here at Bentley. Excited to see where you land after this, particularly Hogan. Audra, Faith, thank you for sharing the Grad Career Development Office with us. Your office is such an integral part of our students' experience and one that they always point to as very meaningful in their journey. And then huge thanks to those of you who joined us to talk about this. We want to keep hearing from you. Gordon and his team want to hear from you. And so please, please, please be in touch. Let us know if you have any curiosities, and we'll see you at one of these events soon, I hope.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye, Rucha.